bunny back in the box.
I knew you was a punk, and I was right. You been playing us all along. You a free man.
I said, put the bunny back in the box.
The Big O and Dukes Network presents Con Aircast with Blab and Big Stuff.
Flight 004 is officially in the air. That's right, the Jailbird has defied all odds again. First, they landed in an airfield they shouldn't be at. Then it was tied to a rock by Cameron Poe. There were multiple armor-piercing rounds shot into its ass, and then it crashed into the Vegas Strip. Yet somehow, here we are. Welcome, everyone, to the Con Air Cast. I am your host, Chad Dukes, as always, joined by my executive producer and fellow convict, One Drab T-shirt. Drabber, it's great to be back in the cockpit with you, sir.
Can't believe we're still flying, man. I thought this was two flights at best.
God damn it, Malloy! I always want to start the show that way. Yeah, this is, we don't know when to quit. And I think that's much like Cyrus the virus.
The listeners do.
Yeah, not as much interest, right? Remember, like, the first couple episodes, like,
Big pop.
Can't believe all the tweets, can't believe all the Facebook likes, can't believe all the emails. It slowed a little bit. It's slowed. Not going to say it hasn't. And that's where, we'll leave it up to the audience. If they like this, if they wanted to continue, they'll continue to support it. They'll continue to spread the word. I was happy that we hit 700 followers on Twitter this week, which was fun. But we'll leave it up to them, right, Drabby? If it runs its course, it'll be a nice little bastion of fun and originality that'll be just another project you and I have worked on that we haven't gotten paid one dime for. And if they want to keep responding and keep enjoying it, then we'll keep doing the show.
No, I'm actually just teasing. We're having a lot we're having a lot of fun doing this. We've had some great interviews. I know we have another great one today.
You did a great job this week, man.
Yeah, Kevin Gage is on the show. And if you don't know his name, he is the prick at the beginning of the movie that pisses off Nick Cage, Cameron Poe, and ends up getting Cameron's fist through his nose.
Hey, Gomer! Thought you might need a little help escorting your old lady home.
Billy Joe, he's the one. Hey, Gomer! He's the one that tries to dance with Trisha Poe, breaks the bottle. He has a very interesting story about breaking the bottle. He's the one that crumbles up the money and throws it in Nick Cage's, Cameron Poe's face, and says, "Oh, listen, soldier dick." Here's the weird thing about this is a couple of weeks back, I remember looking through the IMDb of Con Air, and I remember seeing that he played Waingro from Heat. And Heat is one of my favorite movies of all time. Of course, De Niro, Pacino, Val Kilmer. Who isn't in this thing? There's a woman in it that's very famous. Ashley Judd is in that movie. Tom Sizemore's in that movie. Danny Trejo is in that movie. Jeremy Piven is in that movie. And it's directed by Michael Mann. And damned if Kevin Gage doesn't play the creepiest character in the whole thing. And the fact that it's tied all back together, Drabby, with him being in Con Air. Oh, and by the way, he's the spark. He's the spark that lights the flame because he's the one that, with his boys, tries to jump Cameron Poe after he got home outside of that bar. Cameron Poe, his hands are registered weapons because the Rangers lead the way. Pushes that bone up. How 90s, by the way, is that move? The bone into the brain. I don't think I've ever seen that move outside of 1998.
Well, I think, first of all, that entire scene when I was a child or teenager stuck with me because I could not believe that someone could die by having their nose jammed up into their brain. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And then, I talked to my friends about it, or I'd do a little bit of research, and sure enough, I guess it's actually possible that could happen. But the great thing about that scene is that, it's the catalyst for the entire movie because they have to figure out a way to send Cameron Poe to prison for 7 years. Everybody knows that scene because it happens before the credits even roll for the movie.
Con Air. Before all of that.
That's 7 or to 10 minutes of a movie that runs before you get one credit.
And it's funny because, you'll hear it during the interview. And by the way, we have the full interviews in our iTunes feed. You can go check it out. So if you subscribe to this, if you're listening to the episode, we really do encourage you to listen to all of the interviews because there's some really good stuff. We can't fit everything into the course of the episode. But Drabby, when we're asking him things about hey, the other convicts, hey, the plane, hey, what was Malkovich like? He ain't going to know any of that stuff because he filmed that scene at the beginning of the movie and then it was off to the races.
Yeah, I'm actually, for a fresh perspective on the entire movie, because the other guys all hung out together, right? They're all in the tent squirting water on each other in
Practical jokes.
in Utah, wherever they filmed it at. He didn't meet any of those guys. I mean, I'm sure he met them through other movies and just being in the same circle, but not on that set. So he said he filmed it in San Pedro out there in California, and a completely different vibe to the movie than I'm sure the rest of the guys had.
Do you know who connects Heat, Con Air, and Kevin Gage?
Yes, I'm not a rube.
Who?
Danny Trejo.
There he is. You know what Danny Trejo's character's name is in Heat?
No, I do not.
Trejo.
Pretty good.
And we're never going to get him on the show. Is there anyone more difficult to book on the planet than Danny Trejo, Drab?
Maybe John Malkovich.
Maybe John Malkovich. You've tried both, though, right?
I actually do think if we're doing this long enough, we're going to get Trejo.
All right.
I mean, I have a relationship with his assistant, as in I send her emails and she says no, but like I'm working on it.
I love that. Well, he's opening up a restaurant, and he's got a bunch of stuff going on. I'm sure we'll run him down. But Kevin Gage, awesome interview, and we'll get to some of his stuff. Also, jail mail. If you'd like to ever have a question, comment, or query for Drab or myself about the movie, about a lot of recasting still. People really seem to resonate with that, Drab, commenting on what our recastings of a potential reboot of Con Air would be, adding their own submissions. That seemed to resonate with the people almost as much as John Cusack's footwear. But each and every week we do the jail mail segment. If you'd like to be a part of it, it's conaircast@gmail.com. You can email us basically anything you like. Did a little research for this week's episode, Drab. Don't tell anybody.
Okay, here we go.
But I'm actually furious about this. Did you know that there was a screening of Con Air where everyone that attended, first of all, they played laser tag beforehand wearing Con Air jumpsuits, like the orange jumpsuits. Then they got into a plane and screened the movie inside of a giant recreation of the Jailbirds.
Is this like the world premiere?
No, this is where they did a screening of Con Air. And if you look at some of these pictures, we'll tweet it out from @ConAirCast and Facebook.com/ConAirCast. Look, there's the plane. You see that? I'm showing it on my phone here, Drabber. There's all the people dressed up in their jumpsuits.
Everyone's in it. Oh, that's pretty cool.
And they have guards. They have guards walking back and forth, dressed up just like the guards in Con Air. See, here's the problem. I would love it if we could pull off something like this. But if not, I'd just like to get considered. I'd like for someone to do a quick Con Air search and realize these two schlubs over in America, they deserve to be a part of this whole thing.
I'm sure we could do something like that. It would just be, we'd have to rent out a Cessna instead of a jumbo jet. And we could probably fill that up.
We probably could. It would be you and me. And I don't know who else.
Someone else, one of our friends that we browbeat into coming.
That's true. Speaking of our friends, Kevin McCarthy's going to be on the show today. Of course, Kevin does stuff for movie stuff for, I think, every single Fox channel that exists. And, of course, locally here in Washington, D.C., where we do the show, he's on with the Junkies. And Kevin started off as just a weird, nerdy guy that was hanging around the radio station, working, doing different stuff, and just trying to do movie things. And he would go to movie premieres on his own dime, and he would pay people to film him doing interviews and pay them to edit them up. And now he's kind of parlayed the whole thing into a fairly, I mean, I see commercials for his segments all the time on my local television station, Drab. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, he's come a long ways. They're actually he's doing his own TV show now. He's got a movie show on Fox 5 here in Washington D.C. So it's very cool. And
you ever think that would happen? By the way,
no.
We
just talked to him a few minutes ago, and he's great. He's got some great perspective on Nicolas Cage and Malkovich.
Well, he's interviewed Nicolas Cage and Malkovich multiple times, and that's something that you and I
will never do.
So we'll get his perspective as well. There's also there's a list of 15 things you might not know about Con Air. And I want to get to some of these, Drabber, and see that if we knew them or if we were at least aware of them. You want to get into this now, or do you want to talk about
Sure. No, let's get into it now. Here, we teased it. I have not read this. You told me to print it off.
Well, It's something, it's from Mental Floss, which for me is rather hit or miss, but whenever there's, people now are sending this stuff to us. And again, if you want to email it to us, that's great, or post it on the Facebook page, or send it to us on Twitter. We'll do our best to get to everything. We can't get to everything, and some of it is terrible shtick. So if you don't hear what you send in to us here on the show, we either already knew about it or it's bad shtick. So that's just the way that it goes. Life ain't fair and the world is mean. Let's go through some of these. Number 15, Cage helped flesh out his character, including the idea of the stuffed bunny rabbit. When an interviewer guessed the bunny had been Cage's idea, he copped to it. I'm proud of that. The whole bunny thing was mine. I wanted to be symbolic of all the pain and loss just for protecting his pregnant wife, protecting her too well, and getting thrown into prison. Cage said he also contributed the detail of Cameron Poe being a Southerner. They have a strong sense of chivalry when it comes to women. I know that you're obsessed with Cameron Poe's Southern accent, Drabber. What do you think about that term?
Well, now I guess it makes sense because remember I said, why did he have to be from the South? Why did he have to do a bad accent? He could have just been Nick Cage's accent. It would have been fine. But now I guess that makes sense. He wanted to be a gentleman. Gentlemen are from the South. The bunny, again, if that's Nick Cage is really his idea, the bunny is the star of the movie. Everybody knows the bunny.
Yeah, of course.
So major props to Nick Cage for coming up with the bunny idea. I actually did not know that.
That's very cool. I want to jump around here a little bit because I don't want to sit here and just read lists to people. Most of this was filmed in Utah. I think that we did know that, right? I
did know that. I see one here that says they smashed up a real casino. I did know that. There was a Sands Casino in Las Vegas. It was closing.
It was closing. It was being demolished at the time. Nick Cage did most of his own stunts, which is actually a pretty good idea. We've heard this a couple of times, that Simon West in 2014, who of course is the director of Con Air Blabber, he wants a sequel, and he wants it in space. He wants a sequel to Con Air in space. Now, this sounds wacky and over the top, but I think it could actually work. Like penal colonies on the moon or on Mars or whatever it is. It has kind of a Total Recall vibe for it for me, and putting them on a shuttle or whatever it is, then having the chicanery go that way. You could have some of that, what is it, EVA, where all the guys are going outside, and we could probably have some fight scenes in zero gravity, a la Star Trek First Contact. What do you think of that notion? And is that something that's too corny to pass in 2016, or do you think that's something that could, we're seeing Independence Day 2 finally, aren't we, after 20 years?
Well, whenever someone says "in space" attached to a movie,
sounds awful.
It's a punchline, basically, right?
Yes.
The reason I think this could work is because it is over the top and so unbelievable that it might work, because Con Air was so over the top and unbelievable that actually it's the next logical step for Con Air, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you wouldn't call it Con Air in space. You would just call it Con Air 2 or Con Air Lunar Mission or whatever the hell you want to call it, Electric Boogaloo or The Force Awakens, whatever you want to call it. But I like the fact that in 2014, not that long ago, Simon West is asked about this, and he said, hey, this was my vision for it. That means it's still lurking around out there, Drabber.
As long as it's not laser beams and just a bunch of science fiction stuff from 200 years from now, where I think if it's somewhat realistic and it's set in space, then I'm all about it.
Yeah, me too. Dave Chappelle improvised most of his lines. I mean, that's probably something we all expected. We've heard this, by the way. You're going to hear this today, and again, the interview that we do today. Drabby, a lot of improvising in this movie. You had a situation where you had a director that basically was okay with these guys doing what they wanted to do. And, spoiler alert, Kevin Gage, most of the lines you know for him from this movie, improvised them. And when we talked to, I forgot who else.
Conrad Good improvised.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Ty Grant, I think all these guys said they did.
Shut the fuck up, you freak. We're all going to die. He said that he improvised that. Yeah, absolutely. That's good, man. And it's good that some of the, MC Gainey said, thank you, I'll be here all night, or whatever the fuck he said when they were flying away, that he improvised that as well. So that seems to be a common thread throughout this movie. Someone died making the movie, which is pretty crazy. Philip Schwartz was killed when a plane he was working on fell over on him. I mean, he was a welder, which God stinks.
That's a bummer.
John Cusack and Steve Buscemi's character were written with them in mind.
Ooh, I did know that about Steve Buscemi. I did not know that about Cusack.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very Cusack character, but I liked both of our ideas of recasting Cusack that we did in the last episode. And the number one reason, or the number one things you might not know about Con Air from this list on Mental Floss was it was the director Simon West's first film, but you probably had seen his work before. He made the music video for Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Isley.
Oh, Rickrolled.
He created Rickrolling, right?
That's pretty cool.
That's unbelievable.
That's actually might be bigger than Con Air.
Rickrolling?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a Rickrolling podcast with you.
Well, I don't want one either, but I know we're popular.
Well, but also, I mean, I think you need a bunch of commercials and stuff like that. It's crazy when you see these guys that don't have. I mean, that takes a lot of balls, Drab, to say, here's a Jerry Bruckheimer $150 million budget movie with Nick Cage and John Malkovich, and we're going to give a guy that's never directed it before the reins. Like, that's something that you generally don't hear of, and it worked out pretty damn great because here we sit today.
Yep, I'm just waiting for Con Air in space.
That's something that you definitely want. I mean, I definitely want it. I think it's something that would work, and I think that if they're going to do a sequel, you can't do another gritty, plane flying type of desert type environment. What about this? Arctic prison. They have to go up to like Antarctica, or I don't think there actually is a North Pole, right? But I would like that environment. Maybe in Alaska. It has to at least be a change of scenery. But
Yeah, you got to get out of the plane.
All right, we can.
Then I guess it wouldn't really be Con Air.
We can talk about that. Look, earmark that for Flight 5. All right, earmark that for Flight 5. All right, let's get to some of this stuff. Again, very excited about our guest this week. Kevin Gage was on. He played Billy Joe. Again, he's the guy that tries to stab Cameron Poe at the beginning of the movie. Cameron Poe then whips around, breaks his nose, and I guess during that scene, there was an actual injury that was, it sounded like it was included in the movie itself. So let's hear about that. Here's Kevin Gage on the Con Air cast.
Well, actually, now that I think back, you know what? It wasn't an easy shoot. That shot in the rain when me and Nicholas fight, it was shot in San Pedro, and it just happened to be a serious cold front that night. San Pedro's here in Southern California on the ocean, and they had a rain machine, and between the rain machine and 33-degree weather, oh God, I was shivered and just about got a pneumonia there. And as I recall, I cut my hand really bad. I don't know if you remember, I'd go to throw a beer bottle at him to get his attention, and when we shot it, that wasn't scripted. I just went to do it, and the beer bottle hit the fence and cut my hand pretty damn bad. I had to get 6 or 7 stitches, but we just wrapped it up and the show went on. But now to answer your question, no, I did not. Other than the cold and my cut hand, I didn't have any conflict or drama or. No, it was real easy and actually a fun shoot. I really enjoyed it.
I guess that wasn't the only injury that he suffered filming movies, because during Heat, I guess Robert De Niro kicked the door in his face. Listen to this.
When De Niro kicks the hotel room door, one of the takes, it actually hit me in the face.
Oh,
that one, that's a memory that I will never forget.
That's not a real broken nose, is it? That's not a real broken nose in the scene, is it?
No, it's not. I had to place my foot on a mark so that when the door got kicked, my foot would stop it, but and it wouldn't just look like the door hit me in the face. But I don't know, either my foot was off the mark or my face was too close to the door. It was whatever it was. I took the hit. Yeah, that'll be a deathbed memory. Painful and but it sold well and looked good on film.
All right, so let's stick with Con Air, Drabby. That's a scene that sticks out at you when it's raining. You hear him talking about the rain and how cold it is and the rain machine. It sounds awful, but he goes out there and, again, improvises. We keep hearing, that's a theme that we keep hearing, breaks the bottle up against that fence. And, of course, for anybody that's seen Con Air, bottle breaks. Hey, Gomer, let's help us. Do you need any help escorting your old lady home? He fucked up his hand. Like, that's crazy. And you're not going to do another take. So that must have been, first of all, A, his idea, and B, the only take they made. and it made the movie.
I'm going to have to go back after the show and watch it and to see if there's a cut there after he throws it, because otherwise, when he just grimace and yell out, "Oh my God, my hand!" If he cut it pretty back, other than that, he's one hell of an actor. If he just sliced his hand open and kept going.
Well, I think he probably is a really good actor. We've heard a lot about the script, and we've heard a lot about people that the script was being changed, and the script was constantly evolving. And like Ty Granderson, some of these other guys, Conrad, they were flat out. They told us, Drabby, that they were disappointed. They thought this movie was going to feature more of their characters. They were pitched on that. It was something they were told that was going to happen, and they were bummed about it. But what I take away from that is they liked the script, right?
Yep.
They liked the way that it turned out. They thought that it was going to be a good movie. Apparently, and again, this is just from talking with Kevin Gage, that's not what everybody thought when they first read the script. Here's what Kevin had to say about that. What we found doing this show, Kevin, is honestly we just started doing it because Drab and I love the movie. We both are just big fans, and we said it'd be fun to do a show about Con Air. No one's ever done it before. And the reaction we've gotten has been overwhelming. I mean, we've done radio together for many, many years, and some of the most positive feedback, we get email every single week. We get ideas for sequels, for prequels, for casting. At the time, there was this kind of wave of The Rock and Face Off, these movies, Armageddon, they were more commonplace. Certainly they are now, where it seems like you have to be wearing a cape if you're going to do an action movie. But did you know that people were going to kind of grab a hold of this thing, that it was going to last for a while? I just love the over-the-top nature of it. It's so much fun that I wish there were more movies like this currently, and they didn't have to go the gritty. Even James Bond is a gritty thriller now, which I don't necessarily understand. Did you know that it would resonate the way that it did while you were filming Con Air?
No, had no clue whatsoever. And in fact, quite the opposite. And no disrespect to Scott Rosenberg, the writer, but when I first read the script, it just didn't jump out at me. It seemed kind of silly, to be quite honest. And I was surprised once again that Nicolas Cage was signed on after coming off of leaving Las Vegas and winning an Academy Award. And it wasn't that it was a bad script. It just, I don't know, I guess I just didn't get it. And so when I saw the movie, I had realized that, oh, you know what, I didn't factor in Jerry Bruckheimer and Simon West and Scott Rosenberg, the writer, and the fact that he'd be doing rewrites and all that stuff. So, no, when I read the script, I did not have any idea whatsoever that it was going to be as entertaining and a good a movie as it was, especially with Big Calf. There's some big names in that.
So this is, I don't even want to say it's necessarily criticism, Drab, but Scott Rosenberg has been a guy that everyone who wrote the screenplay, that everybody that we've had on the show has lauded, has lauded copiously, and has gone as far to say is, hey, we're kind of a brotherhood. Like we this is a guy that's done great stuff for us, and we love the script and blah, blah, blah. The changes, we don't think they were necessarily his fault. He was being pressured. Here you have one of the main actors in the movie, or at least in the beginning of the movie, saying, I wasn't sold on this script, but after I got involved and after I saw the product, then I came around. That's a very different reaction than we've gotten thus far on this show.
Yeah, and you just heard him say that he didn't take in Bruckheimer enough into how great this movie was going to be. And look, we've heard that from actors before. Sometimes it's very tough when you just read a script to visualize it at the next step. And he said that's a credit to Scott because of all the rewrites
Sure.
he did on the fly and improving the movie as they went along. Now, I think it's interesting, and Kevin's a hell of a guy, and I've enjoyed talking to him over the last few days, is that you would kind of take a movie, you're looking, this script is questionable, to actually take that movie. And so you must be looking at that, talking to your manager and saying, well, I can't see it right now, but look, Nick Cage is on this, Malkovich is on this. I got to trust the process. This is going to be a pretty cool movie here.
Yeah, speaking of Nick Cage, here's Kevin speaking on working with Nick Cage and then improvising. Look, I don't want to spoil it. I would not have the balls to do what Kevin Gage did if I was acting one-on-one in a scene with Nick Cage. Listen to this.
far as I'm concerned, couldn't ask to be working with anyone better. He was very giving and professional, and the director, Simon West, he allowed me to improvise, which I tend to do a lot in films that I do. And Nicholas was all good with it. I called him Soldier Dick and threw money at his face and all of these things. That was all improvisation. And
Wow.
when the director called cut, Nicholas grinned like the rest of us. So, yeah, I hope to work with him again one day.
That was so. Tell you what, Soldier Dick, and then throwing a big fistful of money in his face. That was just something you came up with on the fly?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I tend to, if the directors allow it, to improvise a little here and there. I don't prepare real heavily for really anything that I do. I learn the lines, and I'm obviously somewhat prepared, but
Sure.
mostly I just make sure I have my lines down, and when the camera's rolling, just kind of forget everything. And a lot of times, whatever you're doing, it just seems fit to say or do something in that moment, and I don't hesitate. I just roll with it. So, yeah, things like that, calling him Soldier Dick and throwing money in his face. Nicolas Cage at the time, he just came off of Las Vegas or something.
Leaving Las Vegas, right?
Yeah. Leaving Las Vegas, right? He just got an Academy Award. So it's kind of funny. You don't, but in the moment, I'm not looking at him like Nicolas Cage. I'm not looking at anything. I'm
Right.
really in the moment. But yeah, when the director says cut, I don't recall, but I know the kind of guy I am, and I'm sure I said to Nicholas, God, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to throw the money in your face or call you Soldier Dick, but there it is. And
So they're in the bar, and you have the director say, all right, you're okay to improvise. And what you come up with, Drab, with the biggest movie star in the world and a guy that was just at the Academy Awards, is you ball up a fistful of money and you say, here's Soldier Dick, and you throw it in his face, and then everybody smiles and laughs afterwards. Would you have the sack to do that? I mean, you look at Kevin Gage, he's been in a bunch of movies, he's been in a bunch of stuff. He's an actor. It's not like this is a guy they grabbed off the street. It's not like Kramer going in and being in the Woody Allen movie. But would you have the balls to do that with Nick Cage at that stage in his career?
He must feel pretty comfortable in himself to do something like that. Now, look, he was in Heat. He's been in 1,000 movies. He was the drill sergeant in G.I. Jane. This guy's used to screaming at people and used to being a dick. To do that impromptu and not have Nick Cage know what you're about to do, look, I get it. If you, before the scene starts, you're like, all right, Nick, I'm going to crumble this up. I'm going to call you an asshole. I'm going to flick this in your face.
Yeah.
All right, Nick's probably like, all right, cool, let's just roll. He said he didn't tell Nick Cage, and Nick Cage started laughing afterwards. That takes balls.
And also, my theory, Drab, Nick Cage, good dude.
Good dude. I'm with you.
That's my theory all along. We'll get to that a little bit later when we spoke to Kevin. But that's a crazy scene. That's a crazy turn of events. And again, if you're going to think of Kevin Gage's character in this movie, everything that he's telling you is like, oh, we just came up with that on the fly. That's just nuts to me, with the amount of money and the amount of resources and the amount of preparation and all of the different cooks that are in this kitchen, that so much of it is left up to that. And Drab, to be honest with you, as a guy that kind of micromanages a little bit, I love it. I love that you get a bunch of talented guys together and you say, look, it's in the bag already. We're going to have all these explosions. We got all these great actors. Let's just let them go out there and do what they do best. I feel like in radio that doesn't happen. Like, you know what you're doing, right? I know what I'm doing.
Yep.
Do we just get it to go in and do a radio show and do whatever we want to do every day?
Not very often. It's
Not
pretty
very
planned
often,
out.
right?
Yeah.
It's. I feel like that's very, very rare, and I'm beginning to believe that that's maybe one of the reasons why, despite all of its issues that we've heard about too, this movie was so memorable, and it had so many great one-liners, and it had so many lines that when you get drunk, all of your friends know. It's because they let these talented guys, whether they were household names or not, go out there and just let shit rip. And I think that's probably why it was so memorable.
One thing that we should have asked him about is the cutting room floor. There's been so much cut from that movie. I wonder if Kevin filmed some extra stuff that didn't make it in there, different fight, anything different.
What did we hear last week? That it could be a 4-hour movie?
Yeah.
I mean, he probably did other shit. I mean, he probably had other things happen in that movie that would have been great to see. Damn it, that's a really good point. Because there was more antagonizing leading to going out and having that fist fight.
Right.
And it went back to what you said last week. What does Trisha Post say? She says, you went back to that place, you were that guy again.
Yeah.
I bet we saw a little bit more of that leading up into that scene, as to what that guy potentially could be that Nick Cage was. That's pretty wild. I should have asked him that. Although, this is cool. He has agreed to wear the Con Air Cast T-shirt to help promote the product. Now that's fun, Drab. That's something that I need more of in my life.
We are going to send him one right after the show here, and we're going to send him the interview. And he said he'd wear it around Los Angeles for us.
You know, I've told you hundreds of people have asked me about how to get the shirts, right?
Hundreds?
No,
I didn't think so. Maybe, again, a couple of your friends.
Nope.
All right, I want take a look at Kevin's line here on the sheets.
Which Kevin?
Kevin Gage. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You take it here. I wrote out all his lines from the movie. He has 7 lines. They're all great. Which one is your favorite?
I know which one yours is.
Well, tell me.
Yeah, I'm a regular. I'm a regular hound dog.
I hope that was improvised as well.
It's fucking great. Soldier Dick's real good. And then he says, pussies like you is the reason we lost Vietnam. What? How old is Nick Cage supposed to be in this movie?
Right.
But dude, it's exactly what a guy like that would say in a bar like that if he was going to already be that type of an a-hole and say something to a married soldier returning home like that.
Well, his first line, I'd take a beating of half my life to get a piece of that woman.
Could you imagine if somebody said that, like your wife's working at a cocktail waitress and somebody says that to her? It's like, oh, God. You work around pigs and animals. Wrap this all up. You're not going to stay here.
God, what a great couple of minutes of that movie it was.
Trisha Poe, you little lazy you. Hey, how about joining me and the boys for a cold one, huh, darling?
No, thanks.
Your Captain Huckleberry here. You know this gentleman, honey?
He's a regular.
Yeah, I'm a regular. Regular hound dog. This is a special occasion. If you don't mind, I'd like to spend it dancing with my wife. Tell you what, Soldier Dick. Why don't you go buy me and my buddies around?
Hey, Cameron, no, it ain't worth it. Hey. Come on, Daddy, let's dance.
Chicken shit. Because of pussies like you, we lost Vietnam, I'll tell you that.
You don't need trouble.
Oh, you should be so proud.
You know, for a second there, you were that guy again.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
What do you like better? That couple of minutes or all the push-ups and the handstand push-ups and the yoga and the learning how to speak Spanish and the giving the baby diabetes prison scene?
And the pink coconut thing.
Pink coconut thing.
I think we're at a tie.
Pink coconut things.
It's all downhill from there, though.
Yeah, with all the great actors and all the action starts happening, you're not interested in any of that. So we had Kevin McCarthy on as well. And while we're kind of playing some of the audio from these interviews, and again, I would highly suggest going back and listening to the full interviews. They're in our iTunes feed. I think they're only like for 15, 20 minutes, and there's some good stuff in there. BDK, Kevin McCarthy, has interviewed Nicolas Cage. He's interviewed him. He's interviewed John Malkovich, and I don't think he's bragging. He just has. And not only did he speak on that, but I asked him about my theory, which I believe I first floated out there in Flight 002, that of all the guys in Hollywood, the 2 guys that I am convinced, the Big Shooter is convinced, are good dudes, Nick Cage and Kevin Costner. And I asked Kevin McCarthy about that, and he said this.
The Nicolas Cage, though, to be honest, was probably one of the best interviews I've ever had, just in regards to, like, going into a room, knowing how many times I saw Face Off.
Right.
And I mentioned this to you before. I walked in there with my Rock and Con Air ticket stub, and I've been collecting my ticket stubs since I was 11 years old. So the first one I ever saved was Die Hard 3. And Jeremy Irons and Bruce Willis have, like, both held that stub in their hand. Like, it freaks me out to know their hands touched it. But when I walked in to interview Nicolas Cage, I think it was for The Croods, this movie he had done, this animated film, I gave him the stubs, and he like kind of flipped out a little bit in a good way. He held them up to the camera and said, "That was the golden age of my career." And he's like holding Con Air and The Rock in his hand, and I think he fully understood that he kind of owned the '90s. And ever since then, the film projects that he's taken on have been so. I'm just like so perplexed by the choices he's made, like Wicker Man and these weird films that I feel like he's just one of those guys. I feel like he did what he needed to do. He made the money he wanted to make, and now he's just making the most obscure stuff because he can. And I think but recently I think Kick-Ass was a really good role for him, and that was obviously a few years back, but that was an excellent performance from him. That character, very Adam West like. It was really fun to watch that role.
I didn't hate the Ghost Rider movies as much as everybody else did too, and I'm just looking at it like, look. Nicolas Cage is an A-list movie star. Now, he may be making direct-to-home video stuff now, but there was a time on the planet where you could make an argument he might have been the biggest movie star ever. I have this theory, Kevin, and I think you've probably talked to both of these guys, so I'd like to get your thoughts on it because I'm probably never going to get a chance to. I have two guys in Hollywood that I think that if you sat down and spoke with them, they'd be cool. They'd be nice. They wouldn't be the kind of jaded actor type. And one of them's Costner and one of them's Nick Cage. What are those? Yeah. What are those two guys like? And is that aim of mine? Is it off the mark as far as what they're like to speak to?
Not at all. I mean, Costner, Kevin Costner, Mr. Costner. I've interviewed him a few times, but for McFarlane USA was the cross country movie, and also he was in studio here at Fox 5 for a movie he did recently this year. Costner's another one of those actors who dominated the 90s, as you mentioned. And then now is making very personal films. He made a movie, I believe it was called Black and White, which he actually put his own money down to make the film himself. But yeah, I feel like Costner is. Chad, I think if you sat down, what was that movie he did? Was it Open Range? With
Duvall. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he is just the person you would imagine him to be. A lot of the actors that you think are cool are really cool. I mean, I think some of the I've had some bad experiences with some actors like Tommy Lee Jones, and I mean, it's interesting. Some of these guys just don't want to do interviews, which I understand. But you would think it's the bigger stars that are generally the most they're most into the interview. What I found funny is that people like a Tom Cruise or like a Will Smith. I'm not trying to name drop, but just people that I've that are on that A-list level. I always found to be more open and talk to you more and give you more than the ones who are kind of in the middle, in that B or C level. So I think Nicolas Cage is I think I can still consider him an A-lister. Everyone knows who Nick Cage is, but he treats you like you're just like a friend. He's super cool.
Now, Drab, would you like to kiss the ring? Do I get any credit for calling that shot? Because I certainly haven't met either of the two gentlemen, and yet I had a very firm grasp of what the situation would be.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of props. I mean, I've never heard that I personally have never heard that Nick Cage is an asshole. I heard from the guys on the show that he was in his trailer a lot, but I've never heard that he was kind of a jerk to people during interviews. But now, I've heard that about other actors. I've heard that about Costner, actually.
If you're out in the salt flats, it's 1,000,000 degrees out and you're waiting to film, wouldn't you be in the trailer too?
I probably would.
And also, we heard that Ving Rhames and all those guys just took over the gym, and he didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. He probably could have been a diva about that, or been a dick about that.
All right, so why would you think? Why would you think that people believe that Nick Cage is kind of standoffish?
I don't. But what I'm telling you is, I get vibes from actors. There's actors I enjoy, but I look at them and I say, I bet that guy is a weirdo, or I bet that guy is a dick. And I've never gotten Billy Bob Thornton.
No, hold on. I bet you Nick Cage is a weirdo. I still think he's. I mean, he bought a tomb in New Orleans 40 years before he died. He already has it marked.
Okay.
He's into some weird things.
He's obsessed with Elvis, and he married Elvis's daughter. Yeah. I'm not saying he's no. Are you normal?
No,
you do some weird ass crap.
Top 3 weird guy you know.
Yes, and I think that's being generous.
But I'm a nice guy.
I'm saying yes. I'm saying for an A-list star that at one point in his career, arguably biggest star on the planet, bet he's a nice dude. Same thing with Costner. You're not going to say that about guys like Billy Bob Thornton or Kanye West or anybody like that. You're just not going to hear that about them. Thank you. Now I have actual eyewitnesses to give me more credibility when I make that argument. We also we played our fantasy booking game with Kevin McCarthy. We played it with Cyrus the Virus. Of course, Drab last episode picked his. I picked mine. Here's me telling Kevin that, and then here's Kevin giving his suggestion, which I think is a home run. Drabby and I, last week, we recast the movie. If we were going to do a reboot or a reimagining or whatever it was, and we both cast our Cyrus the Virus. And I think we both did a really good job. I want to give you ours, then I want you to think about it. I want you to give me a person that you think would do a great job.
I got one already, but go ahead.
Okay. Let me know if we take yours. Drabby said Stanley Tucci, which I thought was great because I would love to see him be a villain. And I said Bryan Cranston.
Before you said Cranston?
Yeah, I said Cranston because I think it would just be a no-brainer. He could just be Heisenberg in a jumpsuit, and I think he would be an unbelievable Cyrus the Virus.
That is such a great question. I mean, it's so funny. It's so funny that Drab said Stanley Tucci only because the guy that I would choose reminds me of Stanley Tucci and kind of looks like Stanley Tucci. Do you know who the actor Mark Strong is?
Yeah, absolutely. He kicks ass.
He was in that movie. He was also in Sherlock Holmes. He's in Robin Hood. He's in this new. You saw Kingsman, right? The movie
of course.
Kingsman?
Yes.
Yeah, dude. He would be an amazing Cyrus the Virus. He's 52 years old, but he's like I don't know.
That's a great Kevin. That's a great call. Have you seen a movie called The Guard with Brandon Gleeson?
No, I want. No, I love Brendan Gleeson. I mean, obviously, in Bruges is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've never seen The Guard.
Strong is in that with Gleeson, and it's like a little Irish movie. Don Cheadle is in it for some reason, and you would absolutely love that movie. He's in Strong's in the movie with Sacha Baron Cohen that's coming out there. I guess he's his brother or whatever. But that's a great Cyrus the Virus, man. I didn't think of that guy.
He has one of the greatest voices. Like his voice, I feel like he could totally. Here's the thing: what makes Cyrus the Virus so good in Con Air is Malkovich's voice. And I don't think anybody could ever play the part anywhere near as good as him. But if we had to recast it, I think these guys. I think Cranston's a great choice. Cranston, and my love of Breaking Bad. I mean, Chad, you were on Breaking Bad before I was. And I remember, I was reading. I didn't become a Breaking Bad fan until later on in the series, and it's now my favorite show of all time. I wear a Breaking Bad Heisenberg tie bar every day on the air, but I'm obsessed with it, and it's the greatest show ever. And I go home and watch just seasons at a time or episodes at a time. But I think Cranston could nail that role. I mean, Cranston's one of the people who disappears in his roles, his performances, and Chad, I don't know how many times you've gone back and watched Breaking Bad. Have you done it multiple times?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, there's nothing, in my opinion, like, if you're thinking about Cyrus the Virus, I think the most menacing thing I've ever seen on screen is the moment in season 2 of Breaking Bad when he lets Kristen Ritter die, Aaron Paul's girlfriend.
Yeah, vomit.
And she's choking on her vomit. And if you watch the scene closely, he's looking at her and he knows, okay, if I let her die, then I'll be okay. If I don't let her die, she knows who I am and I'm going to be in trouble. So you see his face immediately go from Walter White to Heisenberg in an instant. And all it is just a facial expression change. And it was like mind-blowing. I've never seen anybody change their expression. So like Cyrus, I feel like, I don't know, there's a little, I can see that. I can totally see the connection.
It'd be easy for him because he would just be Heisenberg the whole time. I think it'd be a walk in the park for him. Mark Strong, great villain in, what was it, the original Sherlock Holmes, the first Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., Guy Ritchie. All right, so Mark Strong, I'm infinitely familiar with. I love him. He's in a crap load of movies that I love.
And he has a new movie coming out, I think, this weekend or
with Borat.
Borat, yeah.
Sacha Baron Cohen. He's one of these guys, and I love actors like this, where every time they show up in a movie, you're happy, and you know that nobody else knows what the guy's name is. I don't know why that I love that. Brandon Gleeson's probably my favorite actor. And every time that guy shows up in a movie, the movie's better. He does a great job. Nobody knows what his name is. I love it.
No, I had to when Kevin said his name, I was pounding on the keyboard to figure it out. Yeah, I recognize him.
He's in everything.
Yeah,
and
he's very good. And he looks like Stanley Tucci.
And he's got that. Very different actor though.
No, of course.
He's got a voice that's way down like this, and he's English. He might be Scottish, but he's in Kingsman. He's the villain again. The villain in the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movie. He's not Moriarty. I forget.
Isn't it called Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, it's called Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay.
What did I say?
Well, you said that Sherlock Holmes movie.
Well, what's the difference? Why are you trying to make me look like a boob in front of the dozens of people that listen to this show?
I do like this guy a lot.
He's the best.
He's in Robin Hood. Oh, the
bad one.
The bad one.
Yeah, he's good at it though. He's good at everything that he's in. He makes every movie better that he's in, and I would love to see him play Cyrus the Virus. So I think that between the three of us, those are the three guys that get calls, Drabber. Those are the three guys that the phone's going to ring when they say, hey, Con Air 2, Electric Boogaloo in space, the Death Star, Drabber and Dukes are casting, along with Simon West. Those are the three guys' phones ring. Cranston, Tucci, Strong.
Can I read you something real quick before we get to
We got to get to our jail mail segment, yeah.
During the show, I've been thinking about Nick Cage and coming back and doing more action films. Kevin talked about it during his interview, saying that he was such a big star in the 90s. This actually has me intrigued heavily. He is filming a movie, or just finished filming a movie called Dog Eat Dog, and he's teaming up with Paul Schrader, who co-wrote many movies with Martin Scorsese. And it's called Dog Eat Dog. It's based on the book of the same name. And it's about the adapted script of a trio of ex-cons deep in the underbelly of Los Angeles who are hired for a kidnapping. When the kidnapping is botched and gets completely out of control, the cons find themselves on the run, starring Nick Cage as one of the convicts.
Wow.
I'm into that.
Nick Cage is a convict on the run?
Looks like it. This is a movie.
Is it a big Native American guy that gets lit on fire?
That doesn't say that in the write-up, but I'm hoping so. Now, don't you think we need to see more of this from Nick Cage?
Does anybody get called a 2-bit Negro crackhead?
I haven't read that far yet. Nobody's called a Cochise.
Nothing about that in Variety?
Yeah, nothing in Variety.
Yeah, you could take that and you
Doesn't that
scratch
sound
their
good to
eyes
you?
out. Those are my shades. Mine now, sister.
Oh, and William Dafoe's in as well.
Do love Willem Dafoe. Very, very good in Sex in the City in the primary role.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get to our jail mail segment that we do every week.
It's time for Jail Mail on the Con Aircast. Email Chad and Drab at conaircast@gmail.com. Convicts.
Of course, you can go ahead and email us anytime you wish. It is conaircast@gmail.com. Questions, comments, or queries are always welcome on the Con Aircast. Boys, how about Barkhead Abdi? I'm the captain now is the new Cyrus Sean M. The guy from the boat movie. I'm going to go see the boat movie. I'm the captain now. Look at me.
I mean, if you're going to typecast a guy, he's a criminal who takes over someone else's...
Takes over a ship.
Yeah, shit. I mean...
Takes over other crap.
Now, he was very good in that movie. I haven't seen him in anything since.
I'd give him an audition. But yeah, I haven't seen him since. It just seemed like he was a guy that lived in that country and knew about that life that didn't really have to do a lot of acting because he was playing a Somali pirate, right?
His accent is way too thick.
Yeah.
He can't get away from...
And his teeth would have to be fixed. Yes? Do we know if they were fixed?
I think Pinball had bad teeth, didn't he?
No, you're saying that because you're a racist. Chad and Drab, I wanted to say thank you for the podcast. As far as I can remember, Con Air is the only movie I've watched in the theater twice on opening weekend. Saw it Friday and Sunday night. Epic. I was 17 years old, but it still holds up the fun and memorable action of a movie today. Pat, 35, and Charlotte getting all the way down to North Kakalaki with the podcast Drab t-shirt.
Now, I never saw Con Air in the theater.
I did.
I was a VHS guy.
I told you where I saw it, right?
I don't remember. Centerville Theater.
Nebraska, very close. Nebraska on a theater trip of all things. I think I was 17 years old, and I came out mule kicks and spinning back fists. I was so fired up. I was just inconsolable for the rest of the trip.
Wait. What made the class go to Nebraska for
There's
drama?
some big theater. First of all, I didn't even compete in it. Like, there's some big theater competition, which I don't even know how that worked. I just went for the trip.
Just to learn?
I think my mom was so happy that I wanted to go do something that she just said, okay, fine, you can go to Nebraska.
Okay.
You're just hanging out with your friends. It was actually a really good time. Chad and Drab, I just wanted to say thank you for the podcast. Are you convicts or are you technically the wardens? I mean, I'd like to think that we're all convicts, right, Drabby?
Yeah, I'm a convict.
Yeah, we don't want to be a ward. See, this kind of thing puts me in a bad mood. Gag and bag this Nazi muffin. I'm not trying to do all that. Pretty good, huh?
How do you do that?
Do what?
You just remember all the lines from everything.
Oh, man. Well, this one's burned into my head. I am currently traveling in Vietnam and in the midst of a 5-hour car ride, and all I can think about is who to cast in the Con Air reboot. Love the picks from both Blab and Big Stuff. Hated the terribly obvious listener submissions. Well, so did we. I wanted to get your thoughts on 2 outside-of-the-box recastings. My Vince Larkin, with help from the wife, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I actually like that quite a bit, Drabber.
It's a great call. Now, it's a different than, I think we kind of went, you went with Seth Rogen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went with Paul Rudd. We kind of went with the dorky, annoying guys. It's a different side, but I like it just the same.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt also, after Inception, definitely the action chops are there when most of us just knew him from Third Rock from the Sun. My Cameron Poe, 1A, Damian Lewis from Homeland. He is awesome.
Can he be
Cameron Poe?
Cameron Poe.
Well, he's English, I believe, and he has a very thick accent, which he can hide. I don't know if he can do a Southern accent if he's from London. I don't know how you feel, Drab. I really want to keep that aspect of Cameron Poe's character. I like Damian Lewis in anything. He's in a movie called Dreamcatcher, the Stephen King movie with Jason Lee and a bunch of other guys.
Mm-hmm.
It is horrifying, and he plays like an alien. It's worth checking out if you've never seen it. There's a lot of shit weasels.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything from Damian Lewis. I recognize his face, but I don't watch Homeland.
You're also very against Homeland.
I'm not against Homeland. I don't have Showtime.
I've seen you curse people out over Homeland before. I've watched you do that. I love Damian Lewis. I'd be willing to give him a shot. I like my Christian Slater idea better. 1B, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Come on.
Again, you start your email with taking shots at the listeners for obvious picks. And
it's the most obvious.
And then you take The Rock.
That and The Rock is too big and too dominant. How is Billy Bedlam or Diamond Dog? How are any of these guys going to be intimidating if The Rock
You picked
Cameron
the biggest action star on the planet to be Cameron Poe.
Get out of here. Although he is in Vietnam,
obvious.
which is great.
Yeah.
Awaiting a kite with your feedback, Sai Anara, John 32 in Fairfax, by way of Saigon, Vietnam. That is pretty cool. I like that. I think that's the furthest convict we've had away thus far, Drab T-shirt. Hey, convicts, love the show. I travel for work, and I'm usually flying back to D.C. on Thursdays and try to save your podcast to listen to while I'm in the air. I just landed after listening to Flight 003. While I was headed toward the D.C. Strip, I thought of casting the movie as NFL quarterbacks, mostly based on their personalities, criminal accusations, and insulin needs. Here are my choices. I'd love to hear what you think. Also, I plan to do the same with 106.7 The Fan personalities. Of course, that's the radio station that Drab and I work at. I would look forward to that, Drab. I don't know if any of our listeners would get it, but I think you and I would.
I hope I get a role in that film.
Yeah, who's the fattest guy? I'd be the guard that's in a foul mood. That takes, what's this shit? I don't care what it is. You can't have it on the plane, numbnuts. Just so you know, I'll be getting that back. Are you telling me my business?
I'm actually looking forward to that jail mail.
That's definitely who I'm going to be, right?
I think so.
I think so, too. Cyrus equals Tom Brady.
No explanation. I guess because he's the villain of the NFL.
Johnny 600. What Neil Benty trays. He says Johnny 600 if they knew the truth. Ben Roethlisberger. Oh, so this is a shtick list.
It's pretty much shtick. I mean, maybe it's NFL quarterbacks as convicts. I mean, come on.
Not bad. Larkin equals Eli Manning, probably the only quarterback who wears those Jesus sandals with a tan oversized suit. Diamond Dog, Jameis Winston. This man is a racist. Garland Green, Sam Bradford because of the baggy sleeves.
That's actually pretty good.
That's not bad. Baby O, Jay Cutler. Diabetes, looks like he's dying every Sunday. Oh, that's funny, man. Cameron Poe, Drew Brees. You guys could do better. Pinball is Johnny Manziel. Billy Bedlam, Roger Goodell, because it has to be a guy you just fucking hate. I could see Peyton Manning being Cameron
I think Peyton's got to be in there.
Yeah.
He's the leader. He's
kind of got an accent, you know? He's kind of got a little...
Great actor.
He's a good actor.
Yep.
Seen him in all those commercials. Seen him on Saturday Night Live.
I'm going with Peyton. Doesn't have the muscle buildup that Cameron Poe has.
You can't... I can only think of one person who it can't be. Colin Kaepernick. Can't be Colin Kaepernick.
No.
He could be Pinball or somebody else, but he cannot be Cameron Poe. Thank you very much for the jail mail. We greatly appreciate it, and it's something we look forward to each and every week. All right, Drab, I had an idea for Flight 005 whenever that happens. All right?
Okay.
And I would invite, I like doing this. I like giving homework to all the convicts. You've recently watched the movie. I always have it top of mind. But what I think we should do is go back, all of us. This is not just for the host. This is for you guys. And then you can email them into us. We watch the movie again with a steno pad, and we write down 5 things that A, we think are noteworthy, or B, we think people haven't noticed. Because I think those are 2 separate things. Things that you like. Because, for instance, Trav, you have the perfect example. You're in love with the prison scene, with all the workouts, with all the baby-o stuff.
Yep.
I don't think that scene resonates with as many viewers as it does with you.
Nobody appreciates his origami skills.
Exactly. And I think that if you bringing that to the table is great fodder for the show. So that's something that appeals to you. But then watching it, we do this bit, Drab, and I do this other podcast where I try to bring him the underrated Seinfeld moment of the week, where I watch Seinfeld and a scene will happen that I think is funny, but there's no laugh track. I've never heard anybody talk about. Everyone else is screaming, no soup for you. I'm looking for the direct opposite of that. So something you think about the movie that you have noticed that has gone unnoticed, that has gone undiscussed, and more specifically undiscussed on this show. So I think 5 things in those categories, with those 2 categories, is something that we could definitely discuss on this show.
A little homework. I like it. And next time we board the plane, I'll have some answers for you.
When we
for sure.
get on that jailbird, that'll be something that not only we can do, but we can react to whatever the listeners and the convicts send in as well. All right?
Sounds good.
This has been tremendous. Drab, a big tip of the cap to you. Great job booking the guests this week. Well, one of the guests.
And I think we're going to have Rosenberg on in the next couple weeks. He told
Well, I know you're beating that drum, right?
Yeah, he wrote me back. We've been talking a little bit. He says he's super busy right now.
What's he doing?
But he said give him a couple weeks and he's going to come on.
What's he up to?
I don't know. Didn't look into it. Took his word.
And you're still hammering on Trejo?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Big thank you to Kevin Gage. KevinGage.com is his website. I don't think he's on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. But check out that movie he's doing with Pierce Brosnan's kid. That sounds like it'd be interesting. It'll be at the Austin Film Festival. Thank you to our buddy Big Daddy Kev, Kevin McCarthy. You can follow him on Twitter at Kevin McCarthy TV. And here's the most important thing you can do, friendos. It is at ConAirCast on Twitter, and it is Facebook.com/ConAirCast. Stay in touch. Like us. Follow us, and please spread the word. A lot of people think this is a bit. You understand what I'm saying to you? They think that we're jive turkeys, that this is something that we're doing to, I don't know, for masturbatory purposes.
Kill time.
Well, that's true, but we're serious about it. And it's a real podcast about Con Air. And you got to know people that would be interested in something like that. So turn them on to it. Say, hey, click iTunes, click Google Play, click whatever. Check out this show and let people know that we're as serious as our heart. All right. Another great episode. Thank you for all the feedback. Keep the jail mail coming. And for Drab T-shirt, I am Big Shooter saying sayonara.
Pink coconut thing.
Big wheels keep on turning, carry me home just like you, singing songs about the Southland. I miss Alabama once again, and I think it's the same. Yes. Well,
Thanks for listening to Con Aircast. Follow Chad Dukes on Twitter @ChadDukes. Follow Drab T-Shirt @Drab T-Shirt. Always remember and never forget, put the bunny back in the box. Put the bunny back in the box.